Alright, so we have to have a conversation about this one. It boils down to this one thing that I've been saying for a couple of years at this point. Enough with the excuses, enough with the kids' gloves. I have absolutely no sympathy, no patience, no understanding for violent criminal behavior and criminal behavior in general. This sort of la-di-da, kumbaya, the problem's gonna fix itself shtick that we've seen from the Democrats these days. This ideology that criminals are actually victims and all they need is a hug and some love to turn their lives around, or that actually their criminal behavior is due to hunger and they're just stealing loaves of bread, as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez told us, and if we defund the police, that the world's gonna become one big green grass, white picket fence suburb. This ideology has got to stop, and it's moments like these or it's stories like these that really drive that frustration home. We have a young man who was walking around parks randomly sucker punching people in the back of the head, just for the lulz, just for the TikTok clout. And some of the commentary surrounding this whole thing, including the interview of the young man himself, is just so mind-numbing, so frustrating, so immoral, that I had to make a video. We have to have a conversation about this. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so here's the news reporting question. This is what's going viral everywhere. Teen admits to randomly sucker punching strangers at Texas park for social media attention. Quote, everybody makes mistakes. Look at this.
Thank you. New developments in a story we first brought to you on Friday night. A 19-year-old who was seen on video randomly punching people in Wortham Park is now facing charges. This video was first shared with KHOU 11 via the Nextdoor app. It shows Alfred Lewis striking a man in the head before he turns around in shock. Now Lewis is facing charges for aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon and also assault. Lewis is not in custody right now, but there are warrants out for his arrest.
So we have a young man, 19 years old, walking around in a public park assaulting elderly people. He claims he made a mistake. What people didn't see was that I shook his hand and gave him a hug. Oh well, no worries there. Hey, I pistol whipped this guy in the street and kicked him in the balls, but then I patted him on the head and said, nice job, broski. No harm, no foul. It was just a mistake. Don't at me on social media. What world are we living in where this kind of behavior can become as pervasive as it is? And I think that's the right word, pervasive. This isn't the first time we've seen this kind of nonsense. We've seen it many times before. In fact, we've seen young people going on violent rampages in some major cities. I think at one point there was a story, from out of Chicago, where a group of youngsters were randomly assaulting homeless people on the streets, and one of those homeless men ended up passing away. The question that I'm asking myself is, when are we going to start taking this stuff seriously? Because it's not just, random instances like this. It's the assaults, the robberies, the carjacking, the Kia Boys, which is a story we covered not too long ago, the looting, the rioting. The list just goes on and on. For Pete's sakes, we just saw a crash robbery in Los Angeles. This is one of the most psychotic, brazen acts of violence and abuse of law-abiding citizens out in public, out in daylight that I've ever seen. Take a look at this.
I thought I was on a movie set. I thought I was on a movie set. I thought that, they were gonna say lights, camera, action.
This is what John, who for security reasons wants to stay anonymous, is talking about. The moment he pulled up Tuesday afternoon, phone camera recording, and saw 4 guys with ski masks and identical outfits pouring out of a black Dodge Caravan and running on the eastbound 10 freeway to pull off what CHP confirms was literally highway robbery. Investigators say the crew had a hammer and a crowbar as they rushed toward a black Alfa Romeo that CHP says they intentionally crashed, using the tools to smash the windows. They seem to focus on the trunk as the driver is on his knees, hands in the air.
I feel like they knew who he was. They knew what he had. As soon as he knew he couldn't get away, he did the next best thing. He put his hands up and let them take or allegedly take whatever they could. All I seen was guys in masks. And that's it. They ransacked something and they took off.
John says he'd started recording a few minutes before when
I seen a car flying right past me with a flat tire and another black SUV, all tint, chasing him. The tire was sparking. He was like he wanted to get away. Like he was running for his life.
He followed.
They were just recklessly moving through the lanes.
And soon caught up with the chaos on the side of the freeway. He saw the suspect's black van, the victim's crashed car, a red Mustang that CHP says was also hit, and then this white Chevy Malibu, the getaway car.
But it was all real. It was real life. This is just how it goes down in Los Angeles. You never know.
That's a little bit of the aftermath, but you could tell they ran the guy off the road and then took him for everything he's got. When are we going to say enough is enough? You know, obviously there's a green light here. Young people are committing these acts of violence because they know that they could get away with it. That they could say, oh, it was just a mistake, you know, a momentary lapse in judgment, my bad. I gave the guy a hug. We don't see remorse, we don't see a care in the world. And the most frustrating part is that we don't see accountability. I'm seeing comments that are just, rotting my brain. People in the comments section under the New York Post article tweeted on Twitter, or rather X'd on X, saying stuff like the kids should do community service. Are you insane? Community service. It was just a mistake. He's 19 years old. He's an adult. He's attacking elderly people indiscriminately on the street. He could take somebody's life. We're not talking about a joke here. It's just a prank, bro. We're talking about a horrendous crime done purposely with intent to harm. We gotta stop with the whole criminals are victims thing. If you assault somebody randomly on the street like that, you deserve time in prison, and arguably a significant time in prison. There has to be some sort of moral standard if we are to maintain a civilized society and culture. You go to foreign nations like Japan, Singapore, South Korea, China. I'm mainly naming Asian countries because it seems like really when it comes to this kind of stuff, in their culture there's zero tolerance for criminal behavior in general. And that's because they police things. That's because they actually enforce laws. In Japan, you could barely get away with riding on a train for free. They got people checking everyone's tickets up and down the train. And even if the fare is cheap, even if you try to get a free bus ride, you're gonna get in trouble. You're gonna get caught. They're gonna report you to the police. There's no ridiculous ideology of calling the police on people committing crimes if their skin color is different than mine is actually racism. There's no misdemeanors for violent crimes. There's no revolving door of the justice system. Slap on the wrist, please don't do it again. There's no defund the police movement allowing criminals to run rampant, looting stores and roaming gangs of young thugs. We have to apply a basic societal standard that crime is not okay, and violent crime is especially not okay, and that anybody who engages in any of these types of behaviors will not only not get away with it, but will receive adequate justice, I'd argue even harsh justice. The idea that we live in a society where in certain states people can steal goods and not even be pursued, or steal goods and be out on bail the next day, where eventually the charges most of the time get freaking dropped. The idea that we live in that kind of society morally, logically, for me just doesn't sit right. It's not normal to park your car in Los Angeles or San Francisco to come back with your car windows smashed, 5 out of 10 times. That is not normal. That is not acceptable. And honestly, if you ask me, I think it's time that we launch another massive campaign against crime. Some people might say that it failed the first time, it's naive and it's never going to work. But I don't think that's the case if you look at Rudy Giuliani's New York. The results speak for themselves if you look at the massive decrease in crime from the 1990s to present day, but especially the 2010s. Again, the results speak for themselves. We're repeating history, we're pulling back instead of finishing the job. And who are the victims in that case? Law-abiding citizens. People trying to walk in a park. People parking their car in the wrong place. Business owners who are being held at gunpoint and in some cases losing their lives. People who are being assaulted while taking public transportation in major cities. People whose businesses are being run over by homeless encampments. The list goes on and on and on. Enough is enough. It's time for zero tolerance. Because obviously these young kids committing these acts show no remorse, they don't care, and the only way to solve this problem is to implement a culture of accountability. In other words, consequences. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Just my reaction, my thought to this absolutely insane little news segment here. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.